about getting the right skill for the job is a necessity, but then again, most people who want to be aspirant migrants just end up doing a job for the sake of doing it without even realizing what it really means. Then you also mentioned about inter-institutional competition, which is also detrimental. Then also the host countries, they might expect certain licenses or certification, and Sri Lanka is not really matching that requirement. So all that, if I connect it into the word communication, what can be done? Can you shed some light? Because we see a lot of progress being done, which is good, but it seems it's not going to the grassroots level. So, from your experience, how can we communicate better? How can we promote better? So, the aspirant migrant will know where the services are, what are the skills to be gained, what sort of jobs are available.
Well, it's not a one-off intervention that we can start a campaign and say, look here, these are the skills jobs, and you can get into the skills qualification. So it's a step-by-step approach that we need to come within the education system, I believe, where from the school education to tertiary education, and also the community awareness, and also building a referral system. I think SLMP commends that referral system building, which is very important because if you are to get information about jobs available and skills pathways available, you will not go to the Foreign Employment Ministry and ask for that. You will go to the next door neighbor who's recently migrated, just like you, a return migrant who came down to Sri Lanka and settled, and they will ask, okay, what would be my next step? So if you are to help them, a referral system is very much important if you're working with the grassroots levels. And apart from that, we have all the information systems, policies, practices in place, as the distinguished panelists mentioned. But sometimes what we have observed at development practitioners, these are operating in different silos. So therefore, intercommunication within institutions are also very important. Before we reach the grassroots, it's important that they synchronize themselves within the institutions, who's doing what and how they're going to do it. Otherwise, we have seen repetitive campaigns, investments made by different stakeholders to potentially give the same message to the audience or the stakeholders that may further confuse them to make an informed decision. So therefore, it must be a very planned activity in terms of communication. I'm not a communication expert, but talking about skills, it must be very simply communicated and must be integrated into their career pathway, not as a job, not as a solution or emergency exit for their current problem.
Great, yeah. So not only information that is channeled, but continuously hitting the right messages based on various regions. We heard from Mr. Kant earlier, even the provincial level, there are responsibilities which has been delegated. And from your perspective, the various institutions, including academic, non-academic, vocational, everyone has a role to play. Earlier, we have heard from the ambassador, this cherishing moment to be cherished because the whole project is going to be localized. In a way, it's a handover, but in reality, it's going to be taking the baton and running forward. So, if it's about running forward, I'm going to turn back to you, Muriel. Um, you know, Switzerland, the government of Switzerland has been funding this for a long time, more or less 14 years. That's a long time. But there's a lot of work to be done beyond what is being done up to now. So what is the real challenge for development partners to come together and address this side of the story? Because in a globalized world, migration will continue to happen. Migration is a linkage for societies, linkage for economies, and trade that will continue to happen, whether it's a skill migration or low skill migration or an unplanned migration. So with all this, considerable amount of work which is significant being done, what is your message to the counterparts in Sri Lanka? What are the challenges for development partners to engage in this space?
Yeah, I can thank you for the question. I can say a few points on that. I think when we think of safe labor migration, we also need to recognize it's really a bit of a niche topic for donors. There are not so many donors in that space, and we have experienced that. You know, in the region, sometimes we were trying to find other donor countries to make joint initiatives. So it's not so easy. And then, of course, this program focuses a lot on the policy work, strengthening the governance structures. And it's also a little bit of a reality sometimes that donors want to have very concrete results, like the number of people they have reached through their